Hello and welcome. We still have a few people popping in. So I'm going to say a happy Tuesday to you and thank you for attending our webinar. We're very grateful that you are here. We're going to make this as informative as possible. And as you can imagine, there are quite a few things that are coming out on a daily basis regarding funding. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to also talk about technology that can help you in the tribes. So welcome to the Digital Divide Solutions for Tribal Entities webinar, hosted by Nokia, Synex, and Solutionz. I'm Kristen DeProspero. You can just remember the Kristen part. And this is Pedro with us from Nokia. And we will probably not use the entire hour. We'll give you back a little bit of time for your agenda and your schedule today. But again, we're really grateful that you're attending. The purpose of this session is to talk through what's going on with funding, particularly as it's associated with broadband and several other technologies that you can leverage with, in most cases, completely free money, grants and funding that is coming down with no cost to you. So it's really an effort on our part to make you aware of all of this opportunity. And I'm going to give you just a brief introduction to Solutionz. I'm the Vice President of Grant and Adoption Services for Solutionz. And Solutionz is the 5th largest AV integrator in the country. And we have a specialty in distance learning and telemedicine. So this has been a pretty interesting couple of years for us. We also are the only integrator that we know of that has a dedicated grant advocacy team, as well as an adoption and digital training team. So we help you find the funding, we help you design the technology that you need, and then we help you adopt and adapt to that new technology. So we try to cover all of those bases. One of the solutions that we're very proud to be able to offer is the Nokia solution through Synex. And so what I'm going to do is pass it over to Pedro to share what he can with us about tribal opportunities and technologies. So I'll pass it to you, Pedro.
All right, Kristen, thank you very much for the introduction.
You're welcome.
So I will share with you all our slide deck. Just a moment. Can you see my screen, Kristen?
Yes, I can.
All right.
And by the way, this is a small enough group. Definitely feel free to go into the chat and ask us questions there. And everyone, you will also see handouts in the handouts section of this webinar. It's also going to be recorded, so you will have access to it after the fact. And thank you. Go ahead, Pedro.
All right. So this is our digital divide solutions for tribal entities. And what I'm going to present to you here is a combination of what Nokia has been doing, the grants available for tribes, and some use cases, some implementations that we have, so you can all understand how we are working with these programs of broadband for tribal entities. This is the table of contents. It goes from who we are. We talk about the digital divide in the US and how Nokia is working to bridge that digital divide, how we do how we use our solution building blocks to address that, mainly using CBRS spectrum. And then we have a Pandaq overview, which is the Nokia Digital Automation Cloud. And we close with digital divide tribal solution example use cases. On top of that, we have also some slides about the $1 billion funding that Kristen and I will be talking to you about. So let's get started. So who is Nokia? What are we doing? What are we good in? So as you well know, Nokia is a very large company, 22 billion euros in sales in 2020, over 100,000 employees, and we are the number one telecommunications company, software company. And we are working a lot in 5G, 4G, and private networks, what we call private LTE. So the main building blocks you see on the bottom of the slide are mobile networks, network infrastructure, cloud and network services, and Nokia technologies. These are the key pillars of what we do. And the broadband solution, which we're going to discuss today, is right there. So Nokia is leader in both private wireless and 5G. We have a very large customer base. As you see from the map, we have different industries, different verticals: energy, government, manufacturing, transportation, and others. And the number of 5G deals are also growing a lot. And as you will notice towards the end of the presentation, one of the benefits of our solution is that it's always upgradable from 4G to 5G. So all the equipment is compatible to evolve as the technology and the resources are available. All right, so we talk a lot about digital divide, and I included this slide just to give an overview of the problem. On the left, we see the graph that shows the people without broadband internet, which is around 60 million people by the U.S. Census. And this is a very large number. It depends. It varies a lot from the entity that conducts the survey, but we are very confident about the 60 million people. And then when we think where are these people, there is a common idea that they are in rural areas, and that's not really the case. As you see in the middle graph, we have around 15 million people that live in urban and metropolitan areas. So what happens is that every large city in the suburbs and in the poor areas, there is a large demographic area that concentrates the population that does not have access to broadband, and we help them. Nokia helps cities and schools with that. And school is the segue for the last part, the last graph, which is the students lacking broadband internet for distance learning. Distance learning in schools and governments are a focus of Nokia, so we are working and doing deals with schools, cities, and tribes, which is the focus of the discussion today. So Nokia Digital Divide enhances the community life and health. This slide talks about the main benefits that the solution brings, and we can highlight the community engagement, the home internet access, remote e-learning. This is very interesting because in the past 2 years with the COVID pandemic, we heard references of people in tribal lands saying that the connectivity was the piece that gave them access to health during the pandemic, and they couldn't leave their homes. Some hospitals were packed and couldn't receive any new patient. So that helped some communities while we were working on the connectivity deployment. So this is just an example. And now with the learning opportunities that grow every day, this makes even more important. So we work in some of the Nokia opportunities are with tribes and tribal schools. So now let's talk a little bit about the funding. The Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program, which is the grant that we're focusing today, the $1 billion. That the first round was on September 1st this year, and it included the tribal broadband and that fund, the Tribal Broadband Connectivity Program, it included broadband service on tribal land and programs that promote the use of broadband to access remote learning, telework, or telehealth. So the important thing here is to know that it's not only the whole new deployment of broadband. The grants are also available for the ones that want to enhance the use of broadband.
Mhm. And if I could
Kristen,
add,
would you
Pedro,
like to add anything?
absolutely. I would. What I would like to add is that we've learned some things about that. Of course, you guys see the deadline is September 1st. One thing I would like to ask is in the chat if the participants would let us know if they submitted an application. We would love to hear that. You may not know if you did, but if you do, that would be nice to know if you submitted an application. And did you submit it for enhancement or for actual broadband facilities? If you would be willing to share that with us. And we did find out that there were over 280 submissions and over $5 billion requested. Of course, the program is really just under $1 billion in terms of available funds, but the response, the overwhelming response, was really great. And someone on our call on my staff here, Stephanie Pinal, is connected with the program manager of this fund and spoke with him just today. And he said that 70%, as far as they can tell, 70% of the tribes were involved in this tribal broadband capital grant program that was submitted September 1st, and they were either directly involved with an individual application or in a consortium, which is fantastic because I know all of us were concerned that you didn't have enough time to submit because these programs really only have 2 months to apply. But we have some exciting news as we get to the end of the presentation about a program that is out that is going to give you until June to apply. So it's going to give you 6 to 8 months, which is just fantastic. So I think that's going to be good. I think that's all I wanted to reference there on that program. But actually, I should tell you that those projects are expected to be announced. The awardees is projected around the end of November, November 29th. And then actual release of awards to the winners, the awardees, is going to be middle December, like December 13th. And yeah, this is great that if you look at that slide that Pedro is showing, I have another one in relation to this. I guess the real message here is that there is a tremendous amount of funding, and we aren't just staying at that high level. We dig very deeply into these programs to see what's eligible, what it's going to take to submit an application, and we can help you with that at no cost, free of charge, to gather the information, to talk through the strategy, to think through the technology choices, so we can help you add that intelligence to your process. Pedro, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Kristen. So this slide is exactly what we were talking before. It encompasses basically all parts of the tribal organization, government, college, uh, different organizations and corporations, and the grant is eligible for different uses or even a specific use that you may be interested in. Some other relevant information about the funding. Kristen already covered the most of it. So this is something that I brought from the notice of action. The most important thing here is to know that on the second bullet from the bottom, we have projects from 1 billion to 50 billion when it's a whole broadband infrastructure deployment. And also we have projects that can be from 50,000 to 2.5 million when you have one single adoption, for example, telehealth. This slide lists some of the possibilities that are written on the options that you can apply for. So these are not exhaustive, but they provide you what kind of services programs are included. So the main ones that we see are education, residential, business, and institutions. So on the bottom of this slide, there is a message that I'd like to highlight. This is a very unique opportunity to apply for this grant because this type of investment in tribal lands, since most of the lands are in remote areas and they don't have a large density, population density, usually private companies, they don't go there looking for profits because it's hard to deploy in such remote areas with fewer users. So by using the grant, you have the chance, by having the grant available, you'll be able to use this specific time frame to make your tribal reservation connected. Otherwise, you may have to pay a large premium for in the future private companies to come. So really take advantage of these opportunities. All right, so now we shift to the last part of the presentation, which is the building blocks and some use cases. So Nokia has 5 main components for our solution. We have the spectrum, which usually is the CBRF. We have the radio, the core, the OSS, and the devices. So let's put this into a picture so you all can see. So we work with band 41, as you see in this slide, and also we work with the CBRS, which is the most common. So the structure is on the left, you can see the CPE devices. So we have the indoor CPE, and then we have the Pandaq, which is the Nokia Digital Automation Cloud Base Station, which is in a pole, and we have the radios that differ depending on the capacity that we are looking in terms of speeds, upload and download. So then that radio will be connected to the Pandaq Edge server, which is the third part in the picture, through fiber. And if fiber is not available, then we have microwave that can do the same work. Then it's connected to the internet, to the regional cloud, and that's how the whole ecosystem works. So some of these slides are for further understanding of the technology of the spectrum. I will not spend a lot of time here. This talks about the CBRS, which is our main spectrum. This talks about band 41, which is available in some areas, Alaska being one of them. And then this slide talks about the benefits of wireless broadband, which is a viable option for digital divide in tribal solutions, especially because you don't need to bring the fiber all the way into the areas where the tribes are located. And that's how we've been achieving great speeds with using, as you can see in the picture on the bottom right, using towers that enable us to install the radios. And that part is important, as you will see. It's a little bit further in the presentation. We try to leverage what the community already has in terms of poles, so we don't need to procure one. If we need to do so, we procure a pole, but we look for water towers or something that has a interesting height so that the signal can travel further. This slide is a compact, is a summary of what Pandaq is. So Pandaq is an end-to-end platform for private wireless connectivity and automation with spectrum, edge computer, access points, application, and user equipment. So this is important because it gives you the holistic understanding of the solution. On the half circle on the left, you see the 4 and 5G spectrum options and the devices we use. So we have Pico for indoor, the micro and the mini macro when you go to an outdoor area, and then the macro when we were talking about longer kilometers, many miles of reach, and then it connects to the edge. And then to the houses of the users. So let's conclude now with some tribal solution example cases. And this part of the presentation is really good for you to have the understanding of what we will do once we start talking about the deployment of the project. So the first thing we do is we look for where is the tribe in a map. So we use Google Earth to see where the tribe is located, where are the houses, where are the residents, where they need the broadband, and also where are the high geographic areas that we will be able to put the devices. So that's why you see on the right water and fire tower, and then the monopole. So look at this slide, the same thing. On the bottom right, you can see where we placed the towers, and the green squares are where the residents live. So it's a combination of the closest place with the highest place to put the towers, and then how we can optimally reach the users. And then this is the heat map. So the heat map is what will be developed after we placed the tower. We choose the proper radio, and that will give the estimate of the speeds for upload and download for the covered area. Another example here on more detail, and this is going to be shared with you once we work together and develop the project. So you know what speeds and what areas are being covered. All right. So as I said before, we worked a lot with schools. Our education practice is really large at this point. And also we are working with some tribes, especially one in California that applied for this first round of September 1st. And the results, the results are just great because of the simplicity of our solution and the simplicity of the deployment. It's only 5 components. We map where the citizens live, and then it's just a game of crafting the best places for the radios and how powerful we need them to be to reach the desired speeds. So this first example here was with the Cheyenne and Arapaho tribes. We partnered with Newport on that one. The second example here, it was in Bexar County, Texas, and we partnered with YTech, and we delivered the private LTE network for them. This is a picture of microwave and a microwave tower that we used in the deployment of the solution. And my last slide is this one: why you should consider Nokia as your partner for bridging the digital divide. And it talks about the fact that we are the industry leader with expertise to deploy this. It's fast and easy to deploy and to manage. Everything is modularized, is standard. As the number one in private LTE and 5G, we have lots of references of customers that can attest to our success. The investment protection is because our Pandaq software is upgradable, as I said earlier, to 5G, so we can start with 4G. The high reliability and performance is because we use carrier grade equipment. It's also very safe from a security and privacy standpoint. We can have reduced upfront costs because we can increase the deployment as we go, as it's needed. Although it's important to notice that when you apply for the grant, you can only apply once, meaning that you can't include an add-on for that. So it's important to make sure everything is included in the application. But in the future, you can increase your coverage if needed. And because the solution is an end-to-end, including the network, the spectrum, the CPE, the applications, and the services, it makes it really rich for you to build platforms and use cases in the area. So Nokia has in the Pandaq, which is the digital automation cloud, we have some very interesting applications. One is the drone. The other one is the HYPE, which is high accuracy indoor positioning. So it's a lot of interesting applications that we can discuss in a different scenario, but that are that this technology enables to be implemented. And we have a dedicated team with government. With also a government dedicated team that helps us understand what are the new releases, what are the new changes in the grants, and provide us with the insights to help you review the application before you submit. And with that, I conclude. That's what I had for you all. And if we have questions or comments, I will give back to Kristen and Annalise.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very helpful. And the reason that we talked about that, again, I just want to remind you, even though it was due September 1st, that program we talked about, there is word that they may release that again. And if they don't release that specific program, we know that there is yet another potential stimulus plan, a fourth sort of coronavirus related stimulus, referred to often as the infrastructure project or package that is going to have a lot of money in it. In fact, the word is that there's potentially an additional $2 billion in the infrastructure bill. It's not yet approved, but if this project, this grant is a reflection of what they intend to do, then it's useful to go over the way that that one is focused. Now, can you pass over the ability for me to share my screen, Pedro?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'm going to do
You're welcome.
that. And I'm going to share this. Now tell me if you see this slide. It says Distance Learning and Telemedicine Grant Program. You do see that? Or you
Yes.
did? Okay. So let me switch it back to that screen. Okay, so what we wanted to do was share with you a couple of other funding sources that you should consider that you're eligible for. And I'll remind you that from Solutionz point of view, we have a grant advocacy program and a team, and our team is dedicated to number one, above all else, is to get the word out about these different funding sources. So that's really part and parcel of this event we're doing here today. We imagine too that you don't have access to dedicated grant researchers or grant writers or grant strategists or people that are simply watching what's happening with all of these grants. You have a lot of other things that you're doing. So we offer those services to you, and that support as a value add and just at no cost, give you a chance to find and apply for and win these programs that these funders want you to get. One of those is the Rural Development Division of the U.S. Department of Agriculture with a grant that we refer to as the RUS DLT because it's from the Rural Utility Services and it's the Distance Learning and Telemedicine Grant, which has been around since 1994. And we have a near 100% success rate in helping people apply for and win that grant. It is a capital program. There is a match. It's a 15% match. And we can usually help you find that 15% match already in your existing budget. So maybe you have the need to purchase laptops or you have some inside wiring that you have to do to upgrade the rooms and facilities to have proper IP connections and access in the facilities where you're going to put, say, distance learning or telemedicine. So you may already have that 15% in your budget or spent. So I like to think of this as a 100% grant because we usually can find that for you. This is usually due in the spring, so I wanted to point that out that the planning should start now. I'm showing you the slide deck from last year's program, and their whole intent really is to increase access to education and healthcare in rural areas. And so you're highly eligible. I know most of you are in rural areas. They typically, last year they had about $42 million to award, and the awards range from $50,000 to $1 million. Most people go for the million or at least $500,000 because the effort to apply for this grant, I'm going to tell you, it's a beast. It's a lot. It's a very technical grant, which is why we help. And again, let me tell you, we've been working on it since 1994, so we know every nuance of this program and can help you apply and win it with a near 100% success rate. Sometimes there are special consideration points added if you are have locations that are on tribal lands. So all of you in this call already walk into this grant with an advantage. So keep that in mind. And again, this one's so much more of a capital grant to pay for technology and equipment, whereas a lot of other grants pay for salaries, or even this broadband grant pays for the network, but they don't pay for the equipment that sits on the end of that network. So I really like to highlight this program. You can have a consortium. I'm just going to say you all are very eligible for this program. And like I said, salaries are not eligible. Administrative costs, recurring expenses, those are not eligible. And then this is a little detail on the scoring. We can help you through every step of this. We have a checklist on how to apply. We have a checklist on how to apply for the previous broadband grant. So now I'm actually going to move over to another document. And I apologize, I'm having to do this from a different computer because mine isn't working. So luckily I had a backup handy, but it just started to have issues just before the call. So luckily I had a backup. So let me go here and log in. And I'm going to show you other upcoming funding sources. Give me just a second. And Molly, I don't know if we have people asking questions, but please make sure that if they do, that you let me know so I can get those answered. Okay, and please feel free in the chat to ask those questions. So here is a list of, this is a list that we keep that's all funding sources that are coming out or have been out, and these are just a few references. What I want to call to your attention is this Emergency Rural Healthcare Grant. We call it the ERC. It's not a very fancy name, but it's the Emergency Rural Healthcare Grant, so ERHC. It's due October 12th, 2 weeks. It's due in 2 weeks, but we can help you apply for it. It's got $500 million in the program, which is tremendous. And it's from the USDA, offered from the USDA. It has a couple of different tracks to apply. There's track 1 and track 2. And so I'm going to actually go to, sorry, let me click out of that and go there and show you a little bit of detail about this. So track 1 provides immediate relief to address issues and things that you've spent money on to fight COVID up to this date. So 25,000 to $1 million is available. Track 2 is for future expenses, and the award amount ranges from 5 million to 10 million. And of course, in every single one of these grants, they're referencing distance learning, telemedicine, communications, tools that you need to bridge that digital divide, laptops for all the residents, webcams, headsets like I'm wearing here. All of this is eligible. But in this track 2, this $5 million to $10 million covers all the other things as well. It covers the technology, it covers the salaries, it covers consulting costs, it covers a wide variety. It covers the broadband network connections that you need to enhance broadband. It's obviously for $5 to $10 million, you can cover a lot of costs. So we want to make sure that that's something you're aware of. And again, it's all about emergency rural health. And you are definitely eligible under the tribal community. And then there's the Coronavirus Capital Projects Fund, which is due in June of 2022, which is amazing because we never get that much notice. I'm absolutely shocked that that program is giving us that much time. Now the award ranges are smaller. They're 50,000 to 200,000, and it's a bit of a complicated program. It's offered from the U.S. Department of Treasury. So again, I talk about these grants, they're either technical or complicated, and there are things that are so different about those programs that you really want to use an expert and entity to help you make those applications successful and that cover the goals and objectives that you have. Now, are you still seeing my screen or did you see it at all?
Yes, I still can see.
Okay, here we go. Stop sharing webcam. Okay, so the other notes that I wanted to give you before we open up for questions or invite you to get back in touch with us are the grant program services, grant advocacy, as I mentioned, and that is something that we offer free of charge. And what we do is connect with you to find out your goals and objectives, your needs. What is it? What are your pain points? What are the things that are difficult? And then we go find the right funding sources for you. And maybe it isn't out right now, maybe it's coming. But the whole point is we add our intelligence and our human resources people to the project to help you um, find the right funding source, apply, and win. We help connect you to grant writers if you don't currently have those folks on board. We help with content and information that you may need to put into those grant applications. So just keep that in mind. We're here to help. It's free of charge, no cost to you, and we can help you sort of vet and assess whether or not a funding source is going to be good for you. And then the other thing I want to repeat is what I said earlier, which is that we have an adoption and digital training service, which is very customized. And we create custom videos. We create an online classroom for all your members and community members that need to learn how to use this technology. So it's almost like your own little university that is created for your projects to help people adopt and adapt to these new technologies. Because distance learning and telemedicine, and by the way, our definition, all of us on this call, we may have 10 different definitions of what it means to do distance learning. So we get into all of that and help the individuals and the organizations adopt and adapt to those new technologies and integrate them into your workflow. How do you operate so that they meet your goals and objectives? So we're are really proud of those services and really grateful that we had the opportunity to have Nokia present their solutions. As Pedro said, very, very large organization with tested and proven technologies to help you increase your broadband and access to these tools and to bridge that digital divide, to try to eliminate that digital divide that you have. And by the way, there's other grants that are for suicide prevention and behavioral health, mental health issues, mitigation of COVID and other disease challenges and viruses. So whatever you are facing as your top needs, we may be able to find funding sources that'll help you. So please check us out at solutionzinc.com. We'll be following up with a link to this recording and sending you the presentation. And we just really appreciate your time. So since we don't have any specific questions in the chat, I'm going to give everyone their time back. There's no need for us to take this to a full hour. We've given you a lot of information, and if any of it resonates and you need more, please feel free to give us a call and we'll keep communication going as long as you allow us. Thank you. I appreciate it and have a good week.